Hello everyone and welcome back to another edition of Indie Book Review, where today I am reviewing uh, Entangled Earth by David Lee. So the story. When an experiment intended to prove the existence of parallel universes goes horribly awry, two people, three people, two physicists and a guy they met along the way, make their way from Paris, France to Cambridge, England to shut the machine off. The world around the trio has become a world of death and destruction as the parallel world merges with their own. The problem? They can't see anything from this other world, but they can sure as hell feel it. Making things worse, they can't actually interact with anything from the world in any way, making even the most mundane objects lethal as they pass through steel, wood, and flesh as if they were not even there at all. And along the way, they end up fighting soldiers and picking up a helicopter pilot. They escape a crazed ship captain and fight the elements themselves as they cross country borders and discover just how bad their situation really can be. The characters of this story. The lead character, Maya, at least on the surface, appears to be a bit of a single-track character. She talks a lot about her husband and child and how scared she is for them to be safe, and it can get a little old after a while, but that said, she's acting and reacting as any mother and wife would react in an end-of-the-world situation. Yeah, she's gonna be a little one-tracked, but her whole world, her husband and child, are in a whole other country and she wants to get to them. That actually seemed really real. That felt really real, making the character actually really well written and compelling in that way. Abraham, he's a really neat character. He's a physicist who watched the original ordeal happen during a live conference. He became actually one of the most valued members of the trio, especially being supposed as the only person capable of actually turning the machine off, thus saving the world. Bruce was fine. I found he really didn't have a lot to do other than just kind of be the reader stand-in. He was the guy who asks all the questions, as he didn't really understand the sciencey stuff. At least not as well as the two physicists. He was a likable character, he just didn't really do much in the way of progressing the plot. Or any of the character arcs or anything like that. He was just kind of there. Allowed for people to understand what's going on. Yeah. But I also want to talk about the pilot, Liv. She was actually my favorite character in this book. Her actions and reactions and everything around her just made me like her. She was nonchalant, she was casual, she didn't seem to care too much about what was going on around her, at least not as much as the others. She didn't want to die, but she did seem to accept that it could happen at any moment, so there's no point in really worrying about things. Just try your best not to die and do what you gotta do. But basically, all the characters in the book were really well written. They all seemed really real in their own way, and I greatly appreciated seeing that. There's a lot of books out there where the characters are really just characters. They don't seem real. These characters felt real. They felt like, basically when a character died, you actually felt like there was something lost there. You felt the loss. And I loved that so much. But getting away from the characters, my thoughts on the story. There's actually not a whole lot for me to talk about here, because at least not without getting into major spoiler territory, which my indie book reviews are very, very non-spoilery. So I'm just going to say the start of the book gives you an intense situation filled with a shit ton of blood and gore. Like, Maya and her friend are at the top of the Eiffel Tower, and when the two worlds collide, and shit goes down like that, and it grabs you. It just grips you by the throat, and it does not let you go until those last chapters. Holy shit. It was intense throughout the whole book. And yeah, it just keeps you going right until those final chapters. And speaking of those final chapters, this is really one of my biggest problems with the book. Actually, it's really one of my only problems with the book, other than Bruce just kind of being there, which, I can just wave that off as whatever, he's a reader stand-in. Speaking of the final chapter, that's actually kind of where the story lost it for me. It's not that the ending was bad by any means, it was just predictable. I mean, as soon as you find out what's really going on, that final twist, the rest of the story just almost became inconsequential to me. I was able to predict it beat by beat for the last 2 chapters, and that really drug the story down for me. That took me out of the story, because after that I was just kind of like, yeah, and then this is going to happen, 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 and then now the story's done. Whoa. But I mean, that doesn't mean that everyone is going to figure this out. I mean, I ingest a hell of a lot of science fiction, so this sort of stuff would be the sort of stuff that I am able to predict and pick up on really quickly. So don't take that as anything bad. It just was a bit of a drag for me. But in conclusion, the book was great. I enjoyed the characters, the world, the situation, the obstacles the trio had to face. The descriptors were spot on. Basically, it was everything I could have wanted from a parallel universe novel. I think the only real other problem was there's a couple editing errors that, I'm able to just quickly sweep away, because, hell, who am I to judge? I'm not an editing expert. But yeah, the book was amazing. I enjoyed what I read. It kept my attention from the beginning to end. This book is an excellent score of 8 out of 10. I'll be recommending this one to my friends and family. And if you're wondering if you would like it, if you're a fan of science fiction, if you're a fan of horror, if you're a fan of suspense, then this book is for you. Well, thank you all again for tuning in to another edition of Indie Book Review. If you would like me to review your book, just let me know either in the comments below or send me an email. I'll have all my links in the info box. And yeah, I mean, if you do want your book reviewed, I'm open to all genres. Seriously, I'm open to everything. As long as the characters are well written and the story's good, there's a good chance I'm probably gonna like it, or at least give a fairly decent review. But anyway, that's all I've got for you. Have a good one, everybody.